This session on the demographic dividend, part A, is now beginning. And our first speaker is Bakari Dosso on advising ECOWAS countries for adoption of the NTAs. So, Professor Dosso, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Ron, for having me with you. I am a UN staff. You know, we met sometimes in Mexico, where we have this, you know, it was my first participation to the NTA conference as an observer. You know, ECA has created a new center of demographic dynamic for development in 2018. So we are United Nations entity. The objective is to support countries to achieve inclusive development and regional integration in West Africa. And our main result area is the mainstreaming of demographic dynamics issues in development plan and policies, not only at national level, but also at the sub-regional level. And West Africa is, let's move ahead. Okay. Yeah, so West Africa, which is in Africa, is in the western part of Africa, and it is composed of 15 countries. And we have a major regional community, economic community, which is the ECOWAS. You know, and then our countries, it is almost 26% of Africa GDP, gross domestic products. And we have 11 of our 15 member states who are least developed countries, which is important to point. And we have also, in terms of population, we have almost 400 million of population in 2020 estimates. And this is 29% of the Africa population. You know, and the countries have a total fertility rate which are among the highest in the world. But their country, it is the average is 5.18. But however, we have to recognize, you know, country difference, because we have Cabo Verde, which is 2.29. At the same time, we have Niger, which is at 6.95. So we see the economic are not really diversified enough, and they are fragile. You know, there are issue of governance, and you know, there are vulnerability, a lot of vulnerability in terms of employment, etc. So our aim, because we are supporting ECOWAS, it was to really advocate for the use of you know, the NTA methodology, and you know, to have data and to inform, really to generate knowledge and to inform the policies. You know, ECOWAS in 2007 has elaborated what we call the ECOWAS Vision 2020. And in the Vision 2020, we have 5 major pillars. We have the regional resource development, which include as well the human resource. We have peace and security, governance, and economic monetary integration, including with the private sector, which was specific because of the situation, LDC situation of our countries. So in this vision, a specific, it's important to say that we are now currently in the evaluation of the Vision 2020. And as a UN ECA, we have been tasked by our regional community, you know, to assist in the development of the Vision 2050. And this is for us an opportunity to advocate for more emphasis being put on the use of the methodology that the NTA has provided for them. These are some points on the ECOWAS Vision 2020. A specific emphasis was put on human capital development, where it was really underlined that to have a healthy environment where women, children, and youth have equitable access to resource and opportunity. And it was the time to invest in education, health, employment, and governance. At the time the vision was elaborated in 2007, we didn't have the SDG yet. We have the MDG. And so the vision was aligned with the MDG, but with also the emphasis that we underlined, we talk about governance, health, education, employment, which also in line with the SDGs and the African Union Agenda 2063. So it's important to acknowledge that while we are producing knowledge at universities and researchers, we want to be some kind of a link between research and the policy on the ground. So in this manner, we are pretty much since our meeting, we run Ron Lee and Professor Latif in Mexico. We try to put together, some kind of a close relationship with our entity in Africa. Is like we have an MOU with Craig, for example, which is very important for us in terms of and the partnership. And so it's important then to note that we have at National Demographic Dividend Observatory, which are implemented in West Africa and most of the countries in West Africa. This is very important to acknowledge. And this is a support we intend to continue, and that we want ECOWAS really in this Vision 2050 implementation to have this one in mind as one of a major area of activity. And we also have ongoing the national budgeting framework sensitive to demographic dividends, which is now rolled out in Mali. We will have a presentation for, with Dumbo and Latif, I think, for today. And ECA also is advocating for the collection of data and analysis and dissemination of data, not only on the economic aspect, but also in the demographic, because you know that data in Africa, most of the time, they are not, the timeliness is an issue sometimes. And the alignment with, the international system. So we are advocating for further alignment of the country to international system. While the NTA methodology is using the SNA, System of National Accounts, most of the country in our region are not aligned with the 2008 System of National Accounts. So it's very important. If we want that the data that we derive from the NTA are meaningful, it's important as well that for comparison reason, they are also aligned with international standards. So in this regard, we organize, capacity development in countries, because what we develop is not only, a data framework for population dynamic for development, because we want to encompass not only data related to the population, fertility, mortality, migration, and size, structure, etc. Because we have country going through, demographic health survey and household survey, and also the population censuses. And at the same time, we have the the data we have to collect on the, the normal SNA. Now, this is an issue. We have to make sure that the data is of quality, and so that the work that we are doing in the NTA and other are meaningful. So this is a regional profile. We know that in West Africa, now we have at least 14. I was told by Latif that we have 14 out of the 15 countries that have national profiles, and this is good. But some profiles are really dated, and we want to work with Liberia and Craig to have the national profile of Liberia, so that it's the only country that we don't have profile yet. So what was important, based with the support of the team of Craig, we produce ECOWAS average profiles, and we also produce profiles of sub-region, because ECOWAS also has a different part. The 15 countries are subdivided. We have a country belong to the Sahel, landlord country, a country with access to the sea, etc. So these are the profile, and this is summary figure that we have. For us, it was an opportunity to compare the data that we have with the country, and so that our pursuit to regional integration, we have a reference data. So this came out that in West Africa, the surplus are created on average between the age 31 to 60 years, and the life cycle deficit represents around 28.6% of GDP. This is important for us, because we are focusing on the fiscal deficit. We want to promote as well the issue of life cycle deficits, and as what Korea did. So we pursue so that our policy peoples have on board the idea that the National Statistical Office have to produce, and we have to monitor regularly the data. And then one of the key message I wanted to say that it's important. We are working hands-on with with Craig. This is important, and we want to we are also open with the support of all the system, and our policy recommendation. These are some of the policy recommendation that is already on the PowerPoint that you all have seen. We want to pursue our capacity building on National Statistical Office and advocate for the NTA methodology. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dosso. And our next speaker is Latif. And Latif Dramani will be combining his two talks into one. And so he will speak for about 15 minutes instead of the 20 minutes.
Then my first presentation is present the demographic dividend in West and Central Africa. It will be very brief, and after I will go to the second presentation and present the DDMI, the Demographic Dividend Monitoring Index tool. And then to save time, that's the context of the paper, that I will skip it, because it's we know the context in Africa, in our region, where we have one of the big country in Africa, Nigeria, with a huge population and high fertility rate, and so and so. Then that's the fertility, the map of the fertility in sub-Saharan Africa. In red is a country where the fertility rate is superior to child. In green, the country where the fertility rate is lower than three child per woman, and in yellow between 3 and 5. And we know that we see that all the countries is in red or yellow or red. Then for the profile, Bakari already present the profiles. Then I will skip it because is we know all this. We are working on this part of Africa, West and Central Africa, and we have the profiles. That's combined profiles. That also I will skip it to go and present. The support ratio also we already know it. What's new here is in the perspective we project the support ratio according to fertility scenarios, and we try to know the gain because we are working with ECA, we work with UNFPA and the others regional advocacy organizations, and they ask us to work and to try to give them some information for projections about how we can gain, how we can measure the gain of the demographic dividend, and how we what we miss and what we gain. Then we have a projection of support ratio according to scenario, fertility scenario, which is not new. We already known by some of the NTA members. And then here is what's new here is the economic gains in the West and Central Africa, and we calculate. We estimate in West Africa the according to support ratio, low fertility, medium fertility, and high fertility. And we calculate also the demographic dividend for low, medium, and high. And here the methodology is very, very simple. We try to see when we shift to has some of the people of the country on the support ratio they are in high fertility rates. Then if they go to the medium fertility, because we know it take time, and we calculate how they gain. Then is by simpler subtraction. Then we calculate it, and here are the results for gain in terms of percentage of effective workers when we take the estimation, the projection, when we between high fertility and low fertility, for example, we'll gain in 5% of support ratio, and in West Africa, in terms of GD, it will be 0.30%, and for West and Central Africa is not changed. Is has West Africa is very the population is very high. Then all the weight of the gain is influenced by West and Central Africa. Then that is what I want to show for this first presentation, and for policy implication is we know that the window of opportunity is open in sub-Saharan Africa, and we now work to better measure and to monitor this demographic dividend, how we can watch the variables on which we need to take account in for budgeting, for example, and to to monitor this potential of demographic dividend, and also how to implement proactive and structuring policies on labor markets and DD and genders or sensitive budgeting. Okay, that's the first presentation.
Yeah.
Okay, then for the second presentation, it's about demographic data monitoring index, and for that, the context is AU African Union roadmap on demographic dividends, and in which it's clearly mentioned that it's a need for develop a monitoring and an index of DD index, and also it's also mentioned that each country need to put in place is national DD observatory. Then that's the context, and for that we are working with UNFPA and specifically with Sahel Women Empowerment and Demographic Dividend Project to push this agenda. And we worked 5 years ago then to try to put this index. And for the process, then it's very important that for the process we do a circular mission for DDMI indicators, and which help us to stabilize in 9 countries, and after we anchoring the National DD Observatory in a key ministry, and we design a lead institution for each unit of DD Observatory, and we have training of national multi-sectorial technical team in each country, and we do the calibration of technical calibration of DDMI in 10 days workshop in each country, and after we help countries writing the report, the DDMI report, and it takes 5 days. We do it with together with the country specialists, experts. That's the process. We can give more details on the discussion session. And DDMI is a synthesis tools which facilitates understanding of information related to DD, and we try to evaluate to monitor, not to calculate, because we already have a support ratio and DD. Then we try just to see to how to monitor it. Then that is the conceptual table. Then we have the AU pillar, DD pillar, which is 4. Pillar 1, employment and entrepreneurship. Pillar 2, we have education, skills and development and skill development. Pillar 3, health and well-being. Pillar 4, right governance and youth empowerment. And from this pillar, we have a basic link, the theoretical approach, the normative dominant methodology, and after we derive the dimension. Then we derive 5 dimensions. Dimension 1 is dependency, economic dependency coverage. Dimension 2, quality of life. Dimension 3, poverty transitions. Dimension 4, extended human development, and dimension 5, network and territories. And DDMI is usefulness is monitoring tools, and also it help targeting the strategic investments, doing the gap analysis, and also it's a barometer. Then for the first index, then we have the theory. We use a life cycle theory, Samuelson, Diamond, Modigliani, main source UN 2000 application of NTA, manual and Lee and Mason, and for the normative method, we use this formula. For the quality of living environment, quality of life, we derive it from the Better Life Index indicators, and that we choose a dimension or component which is very adequate for our countries. With the help of national experts, then we choose seven dimensions, 7 components. And for poverty transition, we use the welfare theories, and the main source is Dang and Langzhou, and who work from World Bank, who work with on poverty transition. And for external human development, we use the HDI. We know that we change some of the variables. We choose to work with consumption, but in place of income. That's to help us use these indicators at subnational level. Okay, then for networks and territories, we collect information about migration, financial flows, and okay, then this is the reading of the scale. Red is not good, yellow is medium, and green is good. Then for the results, I will go to the result directly. Okay, this is the result for the synthetic results for the DDMI, for example. Here we have the potential, which is of the support ratio is 39%, the GD is 0.43% of GDP growth. And for example, here the DD motor index is 40. Then for the countries, here is SWED countries, we can see that the potential is there, but they don't use start using the potential. And we can see the gap analysis that they can all information, all indicators which are red is not good, and dependency coverage is not good, network and territory is not good, yes, extended UN development not. Then they need to countries need to do better in this dimension to try to harness the demographic dividend. That is the work for each countries in which we have results. Okay, then we have a problem about data availability, instability of institutional evolution, political commitments, and challenge of anchoring on sustainability of DD and DD National Observatory. Also, the link between this observatory with the regional DD observatory. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Latif. Very interesting and impressive. All right, our next speaker is Camille Guillemin and Jean-Baptiste, National Demographic Dividend Observatory.
Okay. Thank you, Jason. I'm going to present National Demographic Dividend Observatory. My plan is 4 steps. The first one, we are going to make a definition, emission, and unit of national demographic dividends. After that, we talk about dimension and monitoring indicators. We talk about institutional arrangement and how to set up the national demographic dividend. It will be our final step. So as you know, an observatory is used to monitor information. It is a tool that allows continuous monitoring of the evolution of a subject in order to inform and guide the choices of the decision makers concerned. Within the framework of the demographic dividend, the observatories will take into account the national and international normative guidelines and recommendations in terms of the production and dissemination of socioeconomic and demographic data. So the National Demographic Dividend Observatories will have a few specific objectives. At first, training of actors and stakeholders at all levels, the development of monitoring and evaluation tools integrating demographic and economic variables, exchange and sharing of experiences, availability of documentation and sharing of best practice, and development and training of all stakeholders on the demographic dividend programming tools. So, as we can see, a national demographic dividend observatory is a monitoring barometer. It is a scientific basis of effective and efficient advocacy, like African Economic Commission presented by Dosso. It is an opportunity to make a public proposal for taking a good decision for policymakers. So in each of the countries covered, the dividend demographic observatory mission will be data collection and storage, data analysis, conversion information system, exchange from an information, communication and advocacy, and then make a decision process on demographic dividends. For these 5 missions, present the units that will make up each national demographic dividend observatory. So we have a unit whose work on data collection and storage. We have a second unit which will analyze the data, and the third one which will make advocacy. And you know that a partner and a technical partner and financial resources are important and to facilitate the information and to facilitate the taking of good decision by policymakers. So to work in each unit of national demographic dividend observatory, we have to work about dimensions. We have 5 dimensions. The first one is about life cycle deficit. And you know that for this dimension, it can measure economic dependence. More precisely, it involves reporting the surplus over the deficit over the life cycle. This result is obtained using an NT approach. I think Latif presented it. This makes it possible to realize social demand for decision making by the decision maker. For the second dimension, living environment quality is based on the index of living better, treated to the African context. So we have to arrange it, to adapt it in our context. It takes into account a subjective well-being. For the third dimension, transition in poverty dynamics, it focuses on the dynamics of poverty based on the work of Deng and Landu. It makes it possible to identify the proportion of households in financing capacity compared to dependent oversight. That is very important for policymakers to orient the investment. For the dimension 4, extended human capital, it is developed by Germany, Latif. It makes it possible to specifically identify the level of human capital for sustainable development. For the dimension 5, network and territory, it makes it possible to measure the territorial dynamic in transformation by enriching human, financial, and material resources available. It also makes it possible to explain the dynamics of abstracting one territory in relation to another. So there is emphasis on migration within the country. Indicators are formulated for each of 5 dimensions, and an index is developed. We call this index DDMI. The following can be read from a Potter diagram like this. We can see that when the indicator is in the red zone, the red area, it means that the country must make structural investment. When it is in a yellow area, it must make cyclical investment. In final, when the indicator is in the green area, it must take investment to maintain. So we have some results with our National Demographic Dividend Observatory. We have some institutional arrangements. For example, we have 2 kinds of arrangements. The first one is when we put the National Dividend Demographic Observatory in a head of state office, like Prime Minister Office or Ministry of Economic and Finance. It has the advantage to be visible and to have priority and authority. But its disadvantages is that we can observe the risk of excessive politicization. For the option 2, we can put our National Dividend Demographic Observatory into a sector ministry, like Ministry of Population, Ministry of Health, or Ministry of Education. The advantage is that a leading sector involvement boosts the others, but we can observe a lack of authority just because in our country, in African country, the Ministry of Population or the Ministry of Education haven't enough strong, enough capacity to take a decision than a Ministry of Economic and Finance. For the component of National Demographic Dividend Observatory, we have a coordinator, which is a management unit. We have a technical committee, and we have 5 units which collaborate with country institutions. So to set up effectively a National Demographic Dividend Observatory, we have at first step to organize and stabilize a training workshop. At second step, we have to appointment to take part in the training in country level, and at the third step, we organize the workshop. So we gain some results in West African countries, like you can see. Thank you very much, Prof.
Thank you, Camille. That's a very useful presentation. We have 2 discussants, Justin Kofi and Sylvain Conan.
Thank you, Ron. I said it's unfortunate we couldn't have the last paper, but I just want to commend the great work being done by this consortium of NTA and also the UN family, ACA, UNFPA, and those countries, and research institutions like Craig or CREFAT and universities. I think Professor, my friend Bakary Dosso made a very important statement, saying that yes, we should now make a link between research and policy. I think this is very critical. And that's what he has tried to pave in his document, in his paper, by stating the achievement, like the setting up of national DD observatories, the ongoing project on budgeting frameworks sensitive to DD, and also the data issue, the critical data issue. I think this paper also underscore the fact that there is a need for a pressing collaboration and very visible and transparent collaboration between all the actors and all the countries, because we are working mainly on the same thematic issues, and there is a need for us to coordinate more. There is a need for us to at least come out with how do you say that, like an investment case for to roll out the DD agenda in the continent, because we work on the same human capital development. We work on the same SDGs, and also the Objective 2063. I also like the two papers presented by Professor Latif, and I should say that the DD Monitoring Index is a critical tool, is our baby in this region, because this tool has enabled us at least to fill a gap in having a tool, a domesticated tool that allows us at least to monitor the progress in the DD area. And my advice, my recommendation will be that the NTA family, countries, and also institutional organizations help us feed this baby to make it a very powerful instrument in the area of monitoring. And recently, based on this tool, we've been able at least to assist the countries ascertain, evaluate the impact of COVID-19, for example, on their own development agenda. So it's my baby, it's my favorite tool, and I want to recommend that this tool, that there is a common ownership on this tool, so that we can use it. We can at least make key recommendations to consolidate and to make it a very powerful tool. I also listened to my friend Camille from Benin. Benin is doing a great job in putting together the DD Observatory. As I said, we are in a community of practice in terms of demographic dividend. And that's the area where I think one country can learn from other countries. And I really want to commend Benin to accelerate the pace of putting together, putting in place or operationalizing the demographic dividend or the national observatory of the country, because most of the countries, like neighborhood countries like Mali, Niger, Cote d'Ivoire, Mauritania, Chad, and others have been doing the same thing. And for knowledge sharing purpose, I think Benin can learn from those countries and accelerate the operationalization of the national observatory. And as UNFPA and ECA, we are here to provide the necessary technical assistance. So in a nutshell, I've said that we've been witnessing some great papers that shares that light in the area of operationalization of the demographic dividend, and also that makes the link between everything you're doing as a researcher and us applying that to the policy development and also development agenda. So I don't want to make a long story short. I want to thank you for this opportunity be given to us and convey the gratitude and of our regional director, Mr. Mabinge Ngom, who you know is a favorite of this NTA methodology, and we are together, and also be assured that UNFPA will still be a key partner to this endeavor. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Justin. So Silvere Conan.
Okay, hi Prof, good morning there. Okay, I'm also happy to comment these papers. There are 4 papers. We'll keep the starting point on all these papers is the AU roadmap to harness the demographic dividend. And this roadmap sets the framework to harness the demographic dividend. And in the framework, African Union spoke about the national observatory for demographic dividend. And all these presentations focus on this. The presentation of Bakari speaks about the point of data, collaboration of UN agencies with researchers. And the presentation of Latif focused on production of evidence at regional level in order to compare West Africa and Central Africa, and also to develop a tool to monitor the implementation of the roadmap. And the last presentations focused on the need of National Demographic Observatory and the Gender DD and Demographic Dividend Monitoring Index. So as Justin has already spoken about the link to establish between researchers and policymakers or UN agencies, I have four or five questions to UN agencies how we can move forward this agenda. The first is, how could NTA methodology help reconcile SDGs and aspiration of a continent, Africa, the future we want by 2063? And we speak about how ECA, or what is the agenda of ECA to achieve this goal, and how Craig, which is a research institution, can work either with UNFPA and ECA to standardize or to make popular the use of demographic dividend monitoring index for all African countries, how this agenda could be achieved. I think this is a key point, because many effort has been done to produce this indicator, this monitoring indicator, and the next step is to make it popular, to make African countries to use it in order to monitor their progress toward the SDGs and the achievement of demographic dividend. And concerning the data, how ECA and UNFPA can help countries to produce on a regular basis the NTA indicators. That means something should be done in order to capacitate statisticians. That means training, and also maybe some materials can be, some technical assistance should be provided to countries. And I think that at the end, Craig is doing a great job, but this job should continue, because what we can observe is that in the French-speaking country, Craig has done so much, but the link between the English-speaking countries, saying the neighbor, Ghana, Nigeria, and Liberia, and the other countries, the link should be strengthened in order to work together, so that with the help of UN agencies, African countries can really harness demographic dividend. Thanks, Prof.
Thank you very much. Well, now let's get some questions or comments from the floor, from other participants, and then we can have a couple of minutes for the presenters to respond.
So 2017 was the African Union Year of the Demographic Dividend, and there's been so much work done since then. I'd just be interested to hear our authors' impressions of how the demographic dividend concept is received on the received in your areas now. Sort of, has it maintained the same level of interest since 2017? Is it a struggle to keep the interest? Are more people seeking out information about it? Just in general, what is the awareness around these concepts now that we're a few years away from the year of the DD?
Yeah, what I want to say is that for us, the demographic dividend agenda has given us an opportunity to have a new narrative on very sensitive issues like family planning, like reducing fertility rates, and all the sensitive issues, because that were responsible for failure in the past, using the new narratives around the 3E, empower, educate, employ, around the demographic dividend, has enabled us to position the demographic dividend very high on the agenda, the political agenda of the head of states and all decision makers. One key example is the SWED project itself, the Sahel Women Empowerment and Demographic Dividend. As you know, this project started with 6 countries for 210 million US dollars. But this month of May, the World Bank has signed a new round of the SWED project. The countries now from 6 countries, we are moving to 9 countries, and with an additional 386 million USD being put on the table, yes, for the demographic dividend purpose. So I can say that this is the right moment to celebrate our victory, because demographic dividend has given us a new narrative, and based on this new narrative, things like fertility rate, like family planning, like religious leader of faith-based organization involvement in those agenda, in creating enabling environment for family planning issues or other touchy issues, those has been weighing away, and we think that the momentum is really ideal in terms of program implementation purpose. So that's what I wanted to testify, Gretchen, to provide a simple answer to your question. Thank you.
Bakari, if I may add
Yes.
On it, you know, this year has been working this time around on, you know, not on the family planning aspects, but on the economic transformation, because we sometimes we were referring to the Africa as an African miracle, but the question that was raised was the quality of the growth. You know, so the question of, you know, in the NTA is, I think, very important, the issue of the labor income, how this labor income is generated. This is really key. So what we are doing, we're advocating for economic transformation in the countries. The growth is not enough, but the quality of growth is an issue. So for the last 5 to 6 years, we have been working on several aspects of economic diversification, financing of the economy. So for us, the work that we are doing is really in line with the African Union Agenda 2063, you know, all the issue of demographic dividend as well. It is really high on our agenda. That's why we are on board now. Thank you.
I would like to give one more comment on how our demographic dividend concept is today in the table in our countries, especially in Mali. You know, I think UNFPA and the ACA with Craig have done a great job. Let me tell you a story. In last year, we met the Director General of the Budget, and when we talked him about demographic dividend, he did assimilate it to family planning. And we said, demographic dividend is not family planning. It is an economic issue also. And when we explain the concept, let me tell you, he accepts to finance a workshop in the Craig with about 10 experts, include budget experts and planning experts. And we were at the Craig with Prof. Latif and his team, and we worked about 1 week to develop something I will be pleased to present in the last session. What is the budgeting sensitive to demographic dividend? And let me tell you, we present the result at the national conference, which launched the budget process each year. And he personally invites Professor Latif to participate to the conference. And after this conference, the government was to choose one thematic to request finance for a project, a United Nations project, and the Ministry of Finance decided to prioritize human capital development. And I think it is due to our presentation at the national conference, we launched the budgeting process in February 2020. I think today, a lot of people, a lot of institutional actors come to us and ask us, how can you help us integrate the demographic dividend concept in our development mechanism, in our project? And the last example is the framework we called Cadre de relance économique et de développement durable, which is the referential for the development. And they ask us, and we work with them to integrate the demographic dividend in the framework. And today I can see the concept is welcomed in the country. And I think it is also the same in several countries in sub-Saharan Africa, due to UNFPA work to ACA. We accompany us and also to Craig and its team. I think it is very, very important to understand that. But the next step will be, I'm looking at Gretchen, how to work on NTTA. It's very important for us to work on NTTA and get tools to do strong, let's say, strong communication to decision makers. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Dumbo. And I think we now need to conclude, but I want to say I think it was a very interesting session, and I'm very glad we had a little time at the end for this open discussion, which personally I found very interesting and informative. So thanks again to the presenters, the discussants, and all of those who have spoken and attended.